Got a chance to see the Chris Stuckman horror movie, Shelby Oaks, in a pre-screen. Let's talk about it right now. Oaks. Right now. Shelby Oaks. Right now. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me as we rant about movies, comic books, and television shows, as well as the occasional board game. I'm your host, Frank Zank. I'm an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, and comic book writer, as well as a filmmaker. And yeah, we're going to talk about Shelby Oaks. It doesn't open till the end of the month, end of October, that is. I got to see a pre-screen because I was a donor or a supporter, however you want to call it, on the original Kickstarter that he did. As you know, I try to do as much for independent film as possible. Any kind of support I can, I will. And this was no exception. Even though, for some reason, this is the second time I was also a contributor on Code 8. And this is the second time that my name did not appear in the credits. What the hell? Anyway, I got to go all the way down to Atlanta. You know, Atlanta downtown, that is. And we saw this film at an AMC. It was distributed by Neon, so he got picked up pretty well, and I think that was mostly because of Mike Flanagan. Somehow he hooked up with Mike Flanagan, probably at some of the movies, because Chris Stuckman is a movie reviewer, so he had a huge fan base from being a movie reviewer all these years. And Mike Flanagan has done a ton of movies, both on the writing and the directing side. He wrote and directed Life of Chuck, which I personally did not like. A lot of people did like it, and I definitely could see, what he was going for. He created Fall of the House of Usher, Midnight Mass. I kind of liked Midnight Mass. And Dr. Sleep. I think he wrote and directed Dr. Sleep. There's some good pieces to that. And Haunting at Hill House. He is the creator of Haunting at Hill House. And he also directed the Ouija Origin of Evil movie back in 2016. He also got to work with Karen Gillan on Oculus. I think that was her first theatrical Oculus. So good for him. So this Mike Flanagan's a good person to know, and apparently that was probably the catalyst for working with Neon. So he ended up raising about $1.5 million on Kickstarter due to his fan base. That means that he had nothing to pay back, right? Because when you raise money on Kickstarter, you don't have to pay anybody back anything. You just send them the product, right? Whether it's digital or physical. But then Neon decided that it needed a crap ton of rewrites. So I gotta say this, okay? Whether the movie is good or bad or whatever, Chris Stuckman went and did it, right? And that deserves props right there. The problem is I am very, very, and everybody who's ever seen anything that I've done, as far as my channel here, I am very against writer-directors, especially writer-director-producers. At least he had Mike Flanagan there to tell him stuff if he listened. But I'm very against, especially people that are green, trying to do everything. Because that means you got a control problem, right? So he had a script that he wrote with his wife, and then he decided to direct it. But I guess because of the fact that he is raising his own money, he has nobody really to report to besides the backers. I guess if you just want to play in a sandbox, I guess you could do that. But I think that film is more of a collaborative effort, and if you're a first-time director, you should not be directing your own script. You should be directing somebody else's script. And a writer, if you want to be a writer, have somebody else direct your script, because the more minds behind that, the better off you are. So I don't know how involved Mike Flanagan was on the creative process as opposed to just on the business process. But apparently Neon was not happy with the original directing and writing that he did. And they came in and more than doubled, or no, they just about doubled the budget. So it went from like 1.4, I think it was. And because about to remember, he did out of the 1.5, he didn't get all that 1.5 because Kickstarter's got to take their cut. And then some of the credit cards may have bounced or whatever. And so it was probably 1.4 and it went to 2.8. So he just about got his budget doubled. Now I can say that, for his first time out, if he's playing in a sandbox, it's a fine movie, right? If it's just him playing in a sandbox. Obviously, it was better than what I did, but my budget was $300,000. My supernatural western was $300,000 budget, Six Gun Savior. He had $3 million by the time he was done, or pretty close to it, and a major distributor behind him. And then even if you talk about Almanara, which is my pilot that I did, that I wrote and produced. I didn't direct any of these, by the way. Tim directed the Almanara, Tim Russ from Star Trek Voyager. Great friend of mine, great guy. And I want to work with him again. But anyway, we shot that on $150,000. And that was only 45 minutes, so it's only half. But again, there you go. My budgets are like $300,000. I've never come anywhere close to one of my own projects having that kind of budget. Everything I've done has all been tiny. Of course, I've worked for other people's projects that had, major few $1 million budgets, but I personally, not my writing and, my producing. I produced other people's projects that were in the millions, but nothing that I created. That's what I basically want to say. So he, right out the gate, his first time out, he's working with more money than I have as far as, my inception. I got to put it that way, my inception. The other thing is, before we go into the plot and everything else like that, remember to give me a like, give me a thumbs up if you can. If you can't subscribe, please do. Ring that bell, ding, ding. Also share this video out there as well, so people can talk about Chris's film. Also, check out stuff that I've written that is not into a film at this point. Go to Amazon.com, type my name in, link description below. My 4-novel quadrilogy sci-fi adventure, epic adventure called Destiny Aurora. Again, it was 4 novels. It was made into a board game, an RPG, a graphic novel, the whole bit. It's also on Audible. You're going to really enjoy the Audible. If you have Audible, you should definitely check that out. Spend the credit. Also, my Tales of Ravonna, the Iron Witch, is a fantasy in the realm of Lord of the Rings, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, things to that effect, but it's more YA based. But it's got magic, it's got dragons, it's got all that stuff. So if you like that stuff, you're going to like that. And then my new comic that did very well on Kickstarter, not as well as Chris Duckman's film, Fairy Tales of Terror. We got Psycho Cinderella. We got, I've seen some new pages today. It's looking pretty good. We have Tiger Lily chasing her and Captain Hook around as they're leaving bodies in their wake. Anyway, lots of fun. So just in time for Halloween. But anyway, we won't be, you can't pledge right now, but I'm working on the backer kit right now. So we're going to take late pledge in a few weeks. But if you'd like to see any of that, the link is in the description below, where you can just go to fairytalesofterror.com. All right, so let's go back to the movie. So the movie is about, and this is one of my problems, is that the found footage thing, that thing's dead and buried, man. Don't go backwards. Like, my classmates from UCF are the ones that did the Blair Witch Project. And that was the first found footage film ever done. And then, of course, we've had probably half a decade of that thing over and over and over and over again, where we just got sick of it. And he picked it back up. Uh, and I don't know why. The time for found footage is over, man. Over. So the whole first half hour of setup is all like a combination of found footage and interviews, right? And it just didn't work. I was so bored. I was like falling asleep. And the movie's only 90 minutes long. But the first half hour is a snore fest. And on top of that, I think this was the reason why. So when Stuckman was still doing, I think he is still doing reviews, just not as many. But when he was doing constant reviews and he started to make this film, he's like, I'll back it up on doing negative reviews. From now on, I am doing no negative reviews because it's so hard to do, make a movie that I just can't. I'm not going to do anything negative. I'm only going to talk about the positive. And everybody called him a pussy, and rightfully so, because I know how hard it is to make a film. I know how hard it is to get the pieces together, and I know how hard it is to make a good film. Right? And it's not easy, for sure. But to pull back and say, I'm not going to talk about anything negative, in this business, you have to have skin of the Hulk, man. Because everybody in the world will come at you and berate you, and yeah, you just have to sit back and say, hey, I did it. You know? Yeah, it wasn't good, but I did it, you know, and it was fun making it, you know? And that's the attitude you have to take. You can't go get the pussy side and say, oh, you know, I don't want anybody to do anything negative about me, so I'm not going to do anything negative about that. Nah, it's not going to work that way anyway. You don't think that people are going to bring out all the negative stuff like I'm about to do right now? No, you just you got to just roll with the punches, man. In Hollywood, you got to have thick skin or you can't exist. So, but it's your first time out. Take it. You know, take the criticism, and maybe you'll do better on the next one. If this thing makes money, I mean, he's got nothing to lose. I mean, at this point in time, Neon put up the money, the rest of the money, the other 1.4. So they're on the hook for that. So he just won't see any money come back in until they make their money back plus the whatever marketing fees they did. He may never see a dime out of this. Whatever he made as his pay on the actual film, that is probably the only money he'll ever see. Like, you know, my buddies that did Blair Witch, they didn't see any money on that. They sold that film for $1 million straight. They split the $1 million. That's the only money they ever saw on Blair Witch. That thing made $100 million. That's why they'd had nothing to do with the second one. They didn't own it anymore. But anyway, going back to the film, it's basically the first half hour is found footage, and we got I think Michael Beach is in it from Aquaman. He played the father of Black Manta, and then he was also in The 100. He is a great actor. I love that guy. I would love to work with him. But he got to work with him. He got to work with Keith David, who was also in one scene as well. And they were just day players. He probably got them for like 10, 20 grand a piece. That's it. And but there was some odd directing here, but I will get into that in a second. But the storyline is that the sister Sarah was a paranormal investigator for YouTube, right? So she had a team of paranormal investigators, and we find out that, you know, early in her life, she was seeing things. She had these constant nightmares that she saw over and over again. Then she and her entire group disappeared, and they were gone for like a decade, something like that. They ended up going out and looking for them and couldn't find them, and they were near a thing called Shelby Oaks. Okay, and that's the basic storyline, and that her sister can't let it go and was doing everything that her name was Riley. Sorry, her name, the actor's name is Sarah. So Riley. So it was Riley and Mia, right? So Mia, who is really the star of the film, which is the sister, is played by Camilla Sullivan. She's basically a TV actor. She's been in a few things. She's been in a lot of things, just only a few things that I've ever seen, and I really don't really recognize her from anything. But she was in, the High Castle, Man from High Castle, and the same thing with Sarah Dern, who plays Riley. TV, it's basically a TV actress. I can't say anything negative about the acting. I thought the acting was actually quite good. I thought that his DP was excellent. His DP made that movie. I mean, he did an amazing job. There is some specialty shots where we have drones, with the cars driving. There was some good stuff in there. There was some good specialty shots in there. But anyway, she is basically looking for the sister throughout all this time, and there's a couple little twists in there, but nothing major. So it's it's a direct line film, and I'm not going to go into any spoilers, but by the end, I kind of threw my hands up and said, because what happens at the end destroys the rest of the film, as far as I'm concerned. And I was even, so we had that scene that's in the trailer of the guy walking up to the door and he shoots himself in front of her, right? And this is one of the things why I find the directing was kind of weird. So if I had somebody's brains on my face, the first thing I would do is go take a friggin' shower, right? I would at least wash my face, my hands, everything. No. He has her leave the gore on her face for hours afterwards, where she was watching a videotape and stuff like that for hours afterwards, and she just kept this blood on her face. So weird. I really wish I could talk to him, and I want to find out why. Why did you make that decision? Because it was just too weird. And then she goes to interview Keith David's character. And right in front of her, I think he was at work because I think there was a placard on his desk. In front of her, he starts pouring alcohol into his coffee. That's like a fireable offense, man. So if she told on him, he'd be fired. No. I mean, if he had gotten up and the camera followed him to the point where she couldn't see him and he poured it in and then he came back, okay, I could buy that. But literally right in front of her? Really, like I said, some really weird directorial choices that just had me, scratching my head going, where did this come from? But I got to say that his locations were really good. I like some of the creepy locations. I liked the demon creature. I wish we had done more with that. I don't think we did enough with it. And there was the crack in the window. I thought that was a good idea. But for the most part, and this is my problem. Well, if you haven't seen my review of Darkness Rising, I'll put the link up here. It's how not to make a horror movie. How definitely to stay away, the things to stay away from when you're trying to make a horror movie. That movie was awful, and the dialogue was awful. I didn't feel that way with this film. I didn't think any of it was awful. It wasn't. I'm not really like bashing it to the point where it's just garbage. It's not. It's not garbage. I just wish there was more. I don't think that there was enough here. It wasn't enough weight or anything else here. And she has a very estranged relationship with her husband, so we don't really get to know anything really about her, except for the fact that her relationship with Sarah. That's it. That's all we ever really know. I don't even think I know what even she did for a living. And she doesn't even have a friend with her or anything. She's going off and doing all this stuff on her own. Which I don't know how many women would do that without taking somebody with them. Very odd. And she had all of these flashlights just out of the blue. Most people would just take their camera out to use their flashlight, but no, supposedly she had flashlights everywhere. But there really is no jump. It was just a little creepy. There was really no jump scares, no nothing, no real battles, no, nothing really. I thought, like I said, I would have liked to have seen a little more. And when the guy at the door, he says, she wouldn't, she wouldn't let me go, or something to that effect. And that had me thinking, what if Sarah had turned evil, right, during all this period of time? That would have been cool. I think that would have been a really cool twist. It's not, just FYI. I'm just speaking. It's not like that. I mean, I thought it would have been cool. That would have been a nice twist if the whole time she was looking for the sister, and the sister was like leading a cult or something to that effect, or who had raised the demon and is now was now possessed or anything to that effect. But she wasn't. It's none of that. That's what I'm saying. It's the actual real storyline is so basic, and it really just didn't think out of the box at all, as far as I'm concerned. And that's why I got to say this is just an average film, and the first half hour is a slog to get through. I really did not need all this information. You could have told all that information in 15 minutes, all of it. But instead it just drags on and on and on and on and on and on. And then finally we just, have her just going off on her own. And that's why I think you needed somebody else with her, where we could have some banter and stuff like that, but we didn't get any of that. So it just didn't have a whole lot of personality to it. It's just not memorable. It's just not a memorable film in the least. But again, it's his first. Okay. I'm sure you'll get better as time goes on. The first one is the hardest one. If it makes enough money, you'll get a second one. But again, he's got no money to lose. He just won't see anything from Neon. Because Neon will say, all right, I'm going to get my 1.4 back first. If I put $10 million into advertising, prints and advertising and marketing, I'm going to get my $10 million back. Now I'm at 11.4. So this movie's got to make $25-30 million before Stuckman will see a dime. So we'll see how it does. There is some buzz around it, and on Rotten Tomatoes it has a good score. But as far as my score is very similar to what's on IMDb. IMDb is showing it as like a little bit over 5, and I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10 as a straight average film. I wouldn't say it's below average. It's just meh. It's just meh. So anyway, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you see it. I do recommend seeing it just to support independent film. You know me, I try to go see as many independent films as possible. And definitely here's one where it was literally out of a Kickstarter project. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Give me that like, give me that thumbs up, give me that subscribe if you can, and if you can share this video out there, that'd be great. Check out my stuff on Amazon. Type my name in, link in the description below. And if you'd like to check out stuff, my comic at Fairy Tales of Terror, just go to fairytalesofterror.com and link in the description below. All right, thanks, guys, and I will see you guys on the next one. Have an awesome week. And I will see you guys on the next one. Have an awesome week. And I will see you guys on the next one. Have